Well, I suppose it's gloating time for Mr. President, for the Louisville grad himself, DJ Bien-Aime.
Greetings.
In with me in studio because last week we had a little back and forth.
Yeah.
I would take CJ Stroud over Lamar Jackson, and I know DJ that Lamar Jackson and the Ravens won the game
Convincingly.
Lamar Jackson threw for 2 touchdowns. Lamar Jackson ran for 2 touchdowns, and CJ Stroud had no touchdowns. But I gotta say, talk about who's the better passer. Who had more passing yards in that game?
Oh, brother.
Just asking the question. I can only go off of facts,
brother.
DJ. I can only go off of facts. 175 to 152. And think about this, DJ. Did you know that Lamar Jackson got sacked 3 times, losing 29 yards on those 3 sacks? So technically, Lamar Jackson threw for 123 yards, while CJ Stroud threw 475.
Wow, you're in a hole. You're in a hole, man. You're scraping at the bottom.
Baby.
You're scraping at the bottom.
We're taking all the way to China, and we're just gonna escape. So Lamar Jackson balled in this game. The Texans really didn't seem to have an answer. They blitzed the hell out of him in the first half. It seemed to be pretty effective, and ultimately the offense just started clicking for Lamar and company in the second.
Yep. I mean, watching that in the game. I mean. Like, I kind of had an idea based on people that I talked to, like, how they were going to try to attack Lamar. And then, but they didn't show it early. Like, they didn't start really blitzing him until, they blitzed him a little bit, in the first drive or whatever. But they really ratcheted it up after they went up 10-3. That's when they really ratcheted it up. And they were, obviously, D'Amico was just sending heat left and right, 5- and 6-man pressures. And I was like, okay, it was working. And I was like, okay, what happens when they counter? And then once they countered in the second half, which was more quick passing, half-field reads, things of that nature, throwing to the boundary, again, the run game going, like, at that point, it was kind of game over. But I will say, I think if Jalen Petrie comes up with that pick, then maybe things get even more tight.
Man, those back-to-back plays, there's 3 spots where you wonder what would have happened. The Texans had to play a perfect game in this one to win. Just based off of what we saw in totality, the Ravens clearly are a more talented team. Their defense was basically unmovable, Right. I mean, they only got inside the Texans. I think they got inside the Ravens 25 once. If they even did get inside the Ravens 25, there were 3 opportunities. The missed 47-yard field goal right before halftime. Mm-hmm. You had, as you mentioned, Jalen Petrie, the play before, ball goes right through his hands. If it gets tipped up in the air, who knows what happens. Does hit his hands. Next play, he can't come down with that interception. And then the next drive, the Texans are moving the football. It's 1st and 10 at the Ravens 39. They got a little cute. Maybe that play works if there's one block that's hit on the right side, but they lose 5 yards on that double reverse pass back to Xavier Hutchinson. And there it felt like the game was over.
Yeah. On that play, I didn't think the game was over yet. But
it was right after was the 93-yard touchdown drive. I mean, that is just a punch of gut.
Yeah, that's when it was all right. We might be getting ready for Cancun, But that game was not a well. You could say it was an indictment of like where, as you said earlier, where the talent gap is, right? Because the second half was pure bully ball. It was pure like we're just gonna be better than you. We're gonna execute, and there's nothing you can do about it. And there was no resistance. There was no punchback. There was no because again, like they scored 3 touchdowns in the second half. As you said, the Texans offense. I don't even think they got in the red zone. Like
I don't either.
I don't think they ever crossed the Ravens 20-yard line. Again, there was an insane stat that they've played 120 minutes against the Ravens defense and they haven't scored against it. So, just seeing that just lets me know going into offseason that they can't rest on their laurels. They can't be the Jaguars from last year where the Jaguars, their whole bet was, okay, we just got Calvin Ridley. That should be enough to get us to the next level. And everybody that we brought in, we drafted in the previous year in 2021 and 2022. That should be enough to get, and science should be enough to get us to the next stage. And Trevor take a big jump, blah, 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 blah. And then obviously that didn't happen. So I think this game, and I think what helps them more is the fact that this game was so lopsided within 30 minutes. After the second half, so basically within a 30-minute span, the game got out of hand. Where at least with the Jaguars and Chiefs game, the Chiefs win the Super Bowl. The Jags, they were in it kind of to the end. Obviously, they got down by 10 in the fourth, but they were able to still make it a one-possession game.
Helped that Mahomes was banged up in that one.
Yeah, for sure. But like maybe they saw that and they thought, okay, we're not as far off as we think. And then you see this game where you basically get pushed around and dominated for 30 minutes, right? It's close, but the team is, they haven't played in like 2-3 weeks. They're a little rushy in the first half. The second half is not even competitive. Then I think that can be like the punch in the face that gives you, checks you back into reality that even though, yes, you did make it to the divisional round, things of that nature, you're not that close, right? You still have to add. There's a lot that you have to add because now that the season's over, we can be honest, like the Texans had a lot of luck go their way. And if you're just going to rely on luck to build a roster, then and build a franchise and take it to the next step, then you're probably not going to get to that next step. And I think they're smart enough to realize that if you want to be in the class with the Ravens, the Chiefs, that there's a lot more that you have to add, right? Obviously, season's going to get, it's going to develop. Obviously, Nico had a great year. Tank is going to come back. But there's still more pieces that you need to add to compete with a team like that.
You wrote basically a little mini column on Twitter highlighting a lot of this, and I think some of the interesting points that you highlighted. And by the way, it's DJ Bien-Aime, Houston Texans beat reporter from ESPN in studio with me. Just because the Texans made it to the divisional round doesn't mean they're guaranteed to keep progressing, saying 5 of the 8 teams who made the divisional round last year didn't make it this year. 3 of those teams flat out missed the playoffs. In 2024, the Texans have a first-place schedule, 9 games against 2023 playoff teams compared to this year where they played 4 actual playoff teams. You mentioned the Jaguars, how quickly things have gone south for them. Or, I guess...
Same with the Titans.
Same Titans especially. I mean, they're hiring Brian effing Callahan of all people. Like, what a boring hire.
Well, I don't judge hires. I wait.
I do.
I wait till they actually get on the field or whatnot because you just never know. Everybody thought Frank Wright hire to Carolina was a great hire.
You're 100% right on that, but I will say this: if you're a Titans fan and you've already suffered through them hiring Mike Mularkey and Mike Munchak, hiring the son of Bill Callahan, who again had a decent time with the Oakland Raiders, he did make it to a Super Bowl, but hiring the son of Bill Callahan when Bill Belichick still hasn't been hired. You fired Mike Vrabel. I'm just saying, there are still options available. Jim Harbaugh, and you got the son of Bill Callahan.
I wouldn't hire Bill though. I can understand Jim Harbaugh, but I wouldn't hire Bill.
I understand that.
Bill's like 100 years old.
Yeah.
Why'd you want to hire a guy that's almost 100 years old?
He's the greatest mind in sports history.
Yeah, but like, I don't want to say the game's passed him by. I don't think the game has necessarily passed him by, but Bill needs power, and I don't want him having full control and full power of everything. And
that's fair.
Because he can't build a roster anymore.
Right, but at the same time, I mean, the Titans would be lucky to have him, and
for sure.
They're an embarrassment
Debatable.
as a franchise.
Well, okay,
and Amy Adams Strunk. I mean, I guess we give her credit for not hiring Bobby Slowick away since she's so obsessed with everything that's Houston. But hey, they go with Brian Callahan
For sure.
Thoughts and prayers. I mean, good luck. We wish them well.
We'll see. We will see.
We will see. I'm just the one that's doing this. I can't stand the Titans. I hate their fans. They're morons. They don't understand how the NFL works. They are more focused on the Tennessee Volunteer Football Program that is never coming back. They're dead and gone forever. And look at us. We're making a foray into the NFL. Woohoo! Yeah! Marcus Mariota's good. Mike Vrabel, we're better than him. Losers. Anyway. DJ Bien-Aime with me in studio. Oh, I'm good. I'm happy. I'm happy that they're hiring Brian Callahan. What a bobo franchise. These losers. Like, good luck. Like, they're just trying to strip more parts and then beg their city to finance another stadium less than 25 years after they built the one already. Anyway, I'm sorry. I need to get back to talking about the Houston Texans.
Yeah,
DJ's annoyed. He's like,
as we were saying before that beautiful rant, that yes, like, just because you get to the division round does not guarantee like you're going to continue to progress. As I said, like 3 of them flat out missed.
Right.
And I think that first place schedule, because like think about it. Imagine if you were placed. All right, the Cardinals were they're part of the last place schedule. The Broncos were part of the last place schedule. I feel like there's somebody else. Oh, and the Jets were part of the last place schedule. So they went 10-7. Imagine if you replaced those three teams. Well, let's say you replaced two of those teams, right, on the schedule this year with the Bills and the Chiefs. The Texans probably aren't in the playoffs right now, right?
Yeah.
So, like, it's not necessarily like, they can't overcome that. I think they absolutely can. It's the fact that when people say, oh, well, why you mentioned first place schedule, it doesn't make that much of a difference. One or two wins can make a difference between you being in the playoffs or you being at home.
Yeah, you backed into the AFC South crown.
Yeah.
I mean, the Jaguars had to fall apart for the Texans to get that. Now,
Yeah, that's a good point.
Now, it is funny to think, hey, well, what if the Texans played more first place teams? Maybe they wouldn't have these, pants poopage moments that they had against the Jets and against the Panthers to an extent.
Yeah.
Maybe they'll play up to the level of competition. But then you see a team like Baltimore, you see a team like Buffalo, and a team like Kansas City. And with the way that those three teams played this past weekend, it does feel like the Texans have another rung at least to climb to get into that conversation.
I agree. I completely agree. I mean, I think not the majority. Obviously, the O-line's pretty much set. It is what it is. But I think every other position, like, you can make an argument, except the end and D tackle. But every other position, you can make an argument like we should find an upgrade at every position, right? Not saying like the guys they have right now aren't good. Like a lot of the rooms are good, but again, you can always make the argument: should we add more? Especially at receiver, tight end, running back, cornerback, 2-3, safety, linebacker. The majority of the spots you can make the argument: should we upgrade?
I went to Over the Cap, DJ, to take a look at how much cap space the Texans have. Because we've been talking about all the cap space that they're going to have this offseason. And it's true, they do have a lot. But I also took a look at the players that they have under contract for next season. Third fewest in the NFL.
Yeah.
42.
Yeah. I'm glad you say that because I was just thinking when you were about to say all that, they did have a lot of guys on 1-year contracts, and that's kind of why they have $70 million in cap space. So while, yes, they do have a lot of cap space, I don't think it's as much as you just eloquently stated. I don't think it's as much as the raw number says, because with the context, third fewest guys under contract right now. So like some of those guys you got to re-sign anyway. Mm-hmm. And then when you re-sign a majority of those guys, you're going to have drastically less than compared to a team like, I think like the Bears, who have a lot of guys under contract because they've drafted a bunch of guys. And they have a lot of cap space. So I think that's a little bit where the difference is in that aspect, because they did have a bunch of guys on 1-year contracts. But, for me, like guys like Sheldon, Singletary.
Well, let's run through them one by one. And you say yes or no. And again, this is guessing, right? We're not making predictions here because obviously we're, 2 days removed from the end of the season. At the top, Jonathan Grenard.
Yeah, you got to bring him back. Like, I don't even think that's a no-brainer.
He'll be the most expensive of all these guys that we're about to list.
Yeah, absolutely. But rightfully so. I mean, he's a 12.5 sack guy. Like, guys like that, you can't let hit the market like that. You know what I mean? Like, you got to try to like nail guys like that down, because he's so vital to what D'Amico wants to do. Like, he wants a ferocious pass rush because he wants to be able to rush with 4 all day, every day, and not have to blitz. And you can do that obviously if your coverage on the back end is good. But also you have a nasty front four, and Jonathan Grenard fits into that.
Dalton Schultz, yes or no? $7 million last year. I would assume he's going to ask for a little bit more this year.
Yeah, I mean, I think you can. I don't want to say you can play hardball, but I think you can let him test the market a little bit. Because like he got a little bit more. Like, is he worth $10 million? I don't know.
Top 12 in production. But yeah, it's a tricky spot where you think you have CJ Stroud. If we get somebody else, is that going to work? Is Brevin Jordan in an expanded role? Is that going to work? Like, you can talk yourself into.
Yeah, exactly. And you can just draft his replacement or whatever.
Right. Now, will he be Dalton Schultz? That's another question entirely.
Right,
it's hard to find tight ends as the Texans are cycling through so many for so many years. Sheldon Rankins.
Yeah, I would say mainly because
he was tough this year, man.
Yeah, like he's vital to like a lot of the production that you see from a Grenard or from Will Anderson is because you have Malik Collins and Sheldon being able to push and collapse the pocket to where when Will and Grenard come off the edge, there's not really much for the quarterback to step up into, and they have to spin outwards, and then they can run right into Grenard them. Or they have the Grenard and Will have easier lanes to get to the quarterback because the quarterback, again, can't really slide up or slide up and left or slide up and right into a throwing lane or whatnot. So yeah, I think so. I think he's just as vital. Obviously not more vital than Gennard, but just as vital.
Steven Nelson. I wonder about him. I look at some of the guys who have tested the market and come back on 1-year deals or not signed long deals, specifically in Philadelphia. Look at James Bradbury, who before the hole that he had in the Super Bowl last year, like he was having a really good year.
Right.
And then this year, not so much.
Right.
And they only brought him back for a short-term contract. I wonder about how much a Steven Nelson would cost, because there will probably be some team that looks at the season he had and said, okay, well, I mean, how about we pay him a little bit more to be our second corner on a better team or something like that?
I think age is going to factor. I think it's 31, and I think with cornerbacks, once you start getting to the 31, 32, 33 range, it can get a little tricky. Because you don't know when the cliff is going to fall off. Obviously, Steven Nelson, his game doesn't rely solely on athleticism anyway. Like he's mainly like he plays a lot with his mind. Like he's a very smart, intelligent player. But just with a lot of the coverages that D'Amico was asking him and company to play, and they were still sometimes getting beat down the field. I wonder if they're like, let's just get more athletic at that position and have somebody young that can also grow and build with sting. So that one I'm not too sure. I'm not too sure. Again, like obviously, like Steven Nelson was very valuable this year to D'Amico's defense. But it begs to wonder, like, what would D'Amico do? Would he rather go younger at that position?
And it's tricky because, hey, you can find a corner in the draft, but that is a very boom or bust position, no matter where you're picking it, first round, second round.
Yeah, that's almost about as boom or bust than as quarterback. Like, there's a lot of cornerbacks that get drafted that stink.
Yeah, 100%. And those are just the top 4 names that we listed when it comes to Texans free agents. Jonathan Grenard, Dalton Schultz, Sheldon Rankin, Steven Nelson. There's Blake Cashman, who had a career year. There's Devin Singletary. Yeah. There's Noah Brown, who did have a couple of huge games this season. Yeah. There's Kaimi Fairbairn, your kicker. He's one of the better kickers in the NFL statistically, even if he missed that field goal in Baltimore. Cam Johnston, your punter, had a great year. Has been a good punter for you for a couple of years. Yep. George Fant showed he's a pretty damn good swing tackle. I imagine that he's going to probably get better money somewhere else.
Yeah.
Derek Barnett comes on strong at the end of the year. How many people were paying attention? Does another team decide to offer him a little bit more than the Texans can? There's Desmond King, who they let go, who comes back, who really good in run support. And there's D'Angelo Ross, who's probably their best special teamer this past season, even if he wasn't so good as a corner.
Yeah, I think, most of the guys on the back end, you can bring back on a vet men. So,
or a futures contract, I think, in the case of a Ross, maybe, or Steven Sims, who had the punt return touchdown.
Exactly.
Right. So, but it just goes to show there's a lot of money that's available for them to play with in free agency, but there's a lot of guys that they're going to have to bring back.
Absolutely. So, they can still be aggressive in the offseason and still like add maybe a splash or whatnot, or a splash or two. Because again, with cap space and whatnot, and you're signing guys, if you make the signing bonus pretty big, the cap hit in year 1 won't be too big. So it could be fairly low, and then it'll just be backloaded-ish. So year 2, 3, et cetera, they'll be the ones with more of the bigger cap hits and bigger cap numbers. So, even though we did talk about the amount of guys that they have, and they could have to re-sign back anyway, they'll still have enough cap space to be able to make some moves. Again, as long as they don't rest on their laurels and think we're not that far off. That second half let me know that you're not as close as you think, and that's okay. This is year one of the turnaround. They're only Will's gonna get better, CJ's gonna get better. Obviously, you're gonna get Tank back. That was a game where you needed Tank, right?
Yeah.
Because there were a lot of times where Bobby Slow was getting killed at times by some Texan fans. It was just were y'all watching the game?
I don't know what he could have done differently.
Yeah, when your O-line is getting absolutely whooped up front.
And false starting up a storm.
Yeah.
The crowd was a factor.
Yeah, I remember seeing somebody was picking the Texans to win the game, and they were because the Texans are playing with house money, and they're not going to feel any of the pressure. They're just going to go out there and play football. In the first quarter alone, they had they had 4 offensive penalties.
Yeah.
A couple false starts, delay a game. Actually, it was 3 false starts. I think Fant, Shaq, and Laramie all false started.
2 were on the first or on their second drive of the game,
and then CJ had a delay a game. Yeah. So you feel me? The moment was
they looked young.
Yeah, they look like an inexperienced team in that situation where the crowd, the moment, all that was not necessarily getting to them. And you got to think about it, like, they played, how many games in a row did they play that were like must win, gotta have it games? You know what I mean? Like,
Right, exactly.
I think eventually, some of the emotional taxing started to kick in a little bit, especially down the stretch where I don't want to say look like they quit, because I would never say that they quit, but they just wore down, man. They just wore down. So I mean, but I think in a game like that, they needed Tank, because it felt like at times Bobby was just calling plays. You could tell he didn't have a great grasp on what they were doing on the back end and what they're doing up front with protections, things like that. And that's when you just kind of need your players to make plays. And they really only had one difference maker, which is obviously Nico. But the Ravens are smart enough to like just make sure you bracket him, cloud coverage him, have multiple eyes on him at all times, and then let anybody else try to beat you. And obviously they couldn't.
He is DJ Bien-Aime. DJ, I hope you enjoy the next couple of weeks off, since you've been on the grind with this team having such a great season.
Oh, yeah.
We'll bring you back during free agency as we get closer and closer to the Texans hopefully doing something big. But it's been a fun year. It's been fun hanging out with you, dude.
Yeah, man. I was actually doing some running last night.
You're doing some running?
Yep. Getting ready for, flag.
That's true. For those who don't know, DJ Bien-Aime and I we're looking for a flag football team to join. We're looking.
Yeah, we're looking.
We don't want to be stuck on it. When we were in the celebrity flag football game, we were both misused by our coaches. No, well, I'll say it. We were misused.
Yeah.
We were both both of us were angry the whole game on the sideline, like just going up to each other like, why are we not in the game?
Yep.
And then like whenever we were both in the game, we scored touchdowns. Oh, well, effing surprise!
Well, that's because we were doing co-ed, and you said you want to do co-ed.
Yeah,
so
I want to meet a wife.
So you could meet your wife, but
I want to meet an athletic wife who appreciates how good I am at flag football and who will tell me that I'm a legend. That's what I want. That's what you're laughing. I'm being serious. How dare you laugh at what my future wife is going to call me all the time?
A legend,
legendary flag football player, and co-ed. He's DJ Bien-Aime. It's always fun with DJ. DJ, I'll see you later, dude.
Alrighty.